Welcome to today's Explainer. It seems like every decade or so, a new technology comes along and completely rewires how we think. The personal computer, that totally changed our relationship with work. The smartphone changed our relationship with time. Well, today, we're unpacking a brand new philosophy of digital publishing that's going to completely change how we value discovery. So let's just dive right in. We're exploring this whole concept of rabbit holes. And to be clear, we're not talking about a new app or some sneaky new algorithm. We're talking about the next actual cultural language of the internet.
So I want you to just pause for a second. When was the absolute last time the internet genuinely changed how you see the world? And look, I don't mean a funny clip or a vaguely interesting article or, a post you liked and literally forgot about 5 minutes later. Honestly, I think we're all just so utterly exhausted by the fast-paced web, just doom scrolling past our 500th life hack video of the week. No, I mean an idea that quietly followed you home, something you kept chewing on while driving or walking the dog or trying to fall asleep, something you went back to again and again because you just inherently knew there was more hiding beneath the surface. If you haven't felt that in a while, trust me, you are definitely not alone. There's this fantastic review from Signal and Story that I think hits the nail right on the head regarding what we're missing. It says, "The internet optimized for clicks, rabbit holes optimized for wonder." I love that. It invites us to literally just slow down. Think about it. For 20 years, the web has totally rewarded speed, right? Scroll, like, share, forget, repeat. We've been trapped in this disposable attention economy. But this new medium, these rabbit holes, they reject that entire game. They aren't trying to go viral. They're trying to become unforgettable. We're talking about a massive shift from an internet of cheap, disposable reactions to a contemplative new world optimized for genuine wonder.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the attention economy trap. To really wrap our heads around this new world, we first have to sort of diagnose the internet we have right now. For years, we've been quietly conditioned to believe this one incredibly dangerous idea, that if something truly matters, it'll naturally just become popular. We've essentially been trained to mistake visibility for actual value. But honestly, history has literally never worked that way. The most transformative conversations almost always happen in small rooms, not on the biggest stages. So the real breakthrough here is understanding that a rabbit hole isn't just content, it's a place. On the old internet, content is consumed, it's finished, and it brutally competes for literally seconds of your attention. But on the new internet, these rabbit holes act as fully realized digital environments. They're places you explore, places you revisit. Instead of fighting for your seconds, they earn your hours. A rabbit hole is, at its core, an architecture carefully designed to reward your curiosity. And that brings us to a massive shift in how we actually value digital interaction. The old internet basically runs on the attention economy. Its main question is always, what will people click on right now? But here's the thing, attention can be bought. The new internet, though, runs on the curiosity economy. It asks a totally different question. What will people still be thinking about tomorrow? Curiosity cannot be bought, period. It has to be earned. It only sparks when people sense that something really meaningful is waiting just beyond what they already understand. It builds intellectual momentum, basically turning you from a passive consumer into an active explorer. So the really crucial point here is this fascinating paradox. The exact qualities that make a rabbit hole so valuable are the very things that make it incredibly difficult for algorithms to boost. Just think about it. Do you instantly hit share on an experience you're still trying to deeply process? No way. You pause, you reflect, you probably close the tab, chew on it for a bit, and maybe return tomorrow. Our current algorithms look at that silence and flag it as a failure, a bounce. But in reality, that silence is deep contemplation. Measuring instant reactions is super easy, but measuring true significance and contemplation, well, that's exactly where rabbit holes thrive, right in the hidden gaps of the web. Which leads us to Section 2, enter the rabbit hole. The most influential ideas in history didn't succeed because everyone instantly agreed with them. These succeeded because they gave people the perfect language for an experience they were already having. Words like doom scrolling or deepfake, right? They didn't invent those things. They just finally gave us a name for them. So let's actually define this concept. A rabbit hole is a designed environment that rewards recursive curiosity. Let's break that down. It's designed, meaning it's totally intentional. It's an environment, not just a flat piece of content. It rewards you, meaning you actually walk away with something valuable. It's recursive, meaning one discovery naturally unlocks 5 more. And the actual fuel running the whole thing is curiosity. Not outrage, not some cheap algorithmic addiction, but pure, genuine exploration.
This definition could apply to a digital profile, a deeply interactive essay, or even an AI conversation. Moving on to Section 3, the digital bedside book. For centuries, people have kept this single bedside book right within arm's reach of where they sleep. And they do it not because they haven't finished reading it, but because they've never truly finished understanding it, right? Every single time they return to it, another layer reveals itself. Well, rabbit holes are essentially the first native digital evolution of that exact experience. Think about it. When you revisit a great bedside book, the words on the page haven't changed. You changed. The reader evolved. The absolutely greatest rabbit holes become our intellectual homes on the internet. You don't just pop in to learn a quick fact. You go there to become someone new. You might return months later, read the exact same post, or explore the exact same digital room, and somehow it says something completely different to you this time around. It almost feels like the page is reading you back.
All right, Section 4, the architecture of curiosity.
We generally don't think of novels as just random collections of pages, right? We think of them as worlds. And we don't think of films as just a bunch of scenes stapled together. We experience them as cohesive stories. Rabbit holes require that exact same mental shift. They aren't just collections of posts. They are navigable ideas, interactive essays, digital museums, and narrative ecosystems that are just hiding out inside platforms that were never even built for them. The mechanics of pulling this off rely on what the sources call environmental storytelling. Honestly, video games figured this out years ago. The absolute greatest stories are discovered, not told. Think of a broken staircase or an abandoned room. If you want to build a rabbit hole, you have to imagine every post as a room, and every room needs to contain three things: a clue, a connection to another idea, and an unanswered question. Imagine an interactive essay where a clickable footnote doesn't just give you a boring citation, but actually reveals a hidden subplot. Nothing is random. Every contradiction invites investigation. You're basically building an environment where curiosity fuels itself. This right here is the major turning point. The narrative isn't just served up on a silver platter. It has to be assembled by the visitor. Every little connection the user notices becomes part of their own unique story. Every insight feels totally earned instead of just handed over. And cognitive science actually backs this up. What people discover and construct for themselves is remembered far, far longer than the answers they're just passively given. So, how do we know if we're actually building one of these things? Humans love a good framework, so here is a really tangible litmus test pulled right from our sources. Ask yourself this: does your page reward a second visit? Does it create unanswered questions? Do the posts gain meaning from each other? Oh, and here's a big one. If you completely removed the chronological timeline, would the experience still hold up? And finally, does it change how people think rather than just simply changing what they know? If you're checking all those boxes, you aren't just churning out disposable content, you are legitimately part of a true cultural movement. Finally, Section 5, building the next decade. As we zoom out and look toward the next 50 years, we really shouldn't be trying to just build another fleeting social media trend. We need to be building a lasting vocabulary. The biggest intellectual successes in history don't just dominate the conversation for a day, they fundamentally change the language of the conversation altogether. When people start casually saying, "Man, I spent 6 hours inside a rabbit hole last night," and literally no explanation is needed, you know the concept has successfully embedded itself into the culture. It all boils down to this one core truth: virality is just a moment, meaning is a lifetime. The ambition of this new digital medium isn't to rule today's algorithmic feed. The ambition is to become tomorrow's permanent reference. These are the spaces people quietly recommend to their absolute best friends, the pages they actually bother to bookmark instead of just mindlessly tapping the like button. This whole thing isn't about going viral, it is about enduring.
Which leaves us with the ultimate mic drop question that changes pretty much everything. We have to completely abandon the old metrics. We need to stop asking creators, how many followers do you have? Or how many likes did that did? The future of the internet really depends on us asking a much, much deeper question. How many minds has it quietly transformed? When that becomes our true metric for success, the entire internet changes for the better. So keep exploring, keep building those deep connections, and honestly, I highly encourage you to go fall down a rabbit hole today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, stay curious.